Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Dodge. I'm the social media coordinator here at the Royal Ontario Museum, and I just want to apologize for the slight delay in getting started this afternoon. We had a few technical difficulties that we had to iron out before we got started. But I'm very excited today because we're talking about a really amazing project that we have going on at the museum today. Or right now, and it's centered around our centennial that's coming up in 2014. Not many of you may know that the 100th birthday of the Royal Ontario Museum is on March 19th, 2014, and we've got a great crowdsourcing project that we're doing, but I'm going to let Julia and Cheryl talk more about that. If you guys want to ask questions of Julia or Cheryl, you can do that through Twitter. With the hashtag AskROM. And Cheryl, did you want to say hello?
Hi.
So Cheryl is the web manager at the museum, and she's in charge of the project. Let's say hi to Julia. Say hi, Julia.
Hi, everybody.
And Julia is in charge of editing all of the content that goes on to the project. So, Cheryl, do you want to talk a little bit about what the project's all about?
Yeah, sure. So, as Ryan said, the ROM is turning 100 on March 19, 2014, and we're all really excited about this milestone. The ROM ReCollects project is an online component of this celebration, and the project was really conceived because we wanted to formally document our history, and we hadn't done so in over 25 years. We wanted to kind of take a new look at how we write our history and invite the public, you guys, to actually share your stories with us and share your experiences and memories so we have a better understanding of what happened over the last 100 years. The museum's really not about the collections and exhibitions and research and programs, or I should say it's not only about those things. It's really about the visitors, the volunteers, the staff, and the people that make this place tick, the creative minds that make and love the ROM. I'm especially excited about this digital project because it reflects the overall theme of our birthday celebrations, which is to celebrate the museum's future while recognizing our past. So it's really exciting. And we launched, I think it was in October, is that right, Julia?
Yes, yes.
So we're now up to, I think we've been live officially for a month, and we've got a really nice archive that's building out, and we're excited to be speaking to all of you today, so you can contribute your stories with us as well.
So Cheryl, I just wondered if you could talk about the different ways that people can contribute to this project. I mean, there's so many different forms of media that people have access to these days. Maybe can you give us a sense of the different forms that people can contribute?
Yeah, well, let me start with describing kind of how the website is working, and then I can tell you about what type of information we're asking you guys to share with us. So the website is set up in a timeline, which is a kind of a curated experience. So Julia's putting together a very basic backbone of what the ROM's history is. She's written a lot of content that kind of touch on some of the major elements of the museum, but people have already started to contribute some of the more personal stories that fill that out. We've also got a fully searchable archive where all of the stories that are contributed and all the stories that make up our history are searchable and can be accessed. So a story is a really loose term that we've been using to describe all the various components that make up the timeline. And it can be text, it can be images, it could be a video. We're accepting all of those formats, and we love video. It's been really, Julia's already done some interviews for some of the content she's produced, and they've turned out really well and are really fun to watch. So if you have any videos, we'd love to see those as well.
And so Julia, sorry, I was just looking at the timeline here in the background. Julia, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with this project? Because you have quite the history with the museum. and I think people would be interested in knowing, you know, how you got involved and the work you do behind the scenes to put this all together.
Sure. I came to the ROM in 1982, and I'd already had a life and different careers. Was a very modern kind of contract part-time life. But I came to the ROM as the head of the library and archives, I added. And over 23 years, I did quite a few other things as well, including, with a team, voluntarily, launching the first website in 1995. We were an early adapter, and on the site you can see a picture of the first homepage, and even then we were trying to collect stories. So I had an interesting life here, and then I retired. And I had another nice life, but I sort of got hauled back in, and it's been absolutely terrific learning. Not only new stories about the museum, but learning more about the web and its capacities nowadays, and what the museum's trying to do. And I've really enjoyed myself.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to screen share the website to just to show people where it is and what it's all about. I wondered if one of you could just maybe talk through some of the sections. So just bear with me here for a minute. Hi, everyone.
While you're loading, I want to say one more thing. Okay? This is a team effort, and I just have the most fun I've had is working with the people that are working on this project.
So
back at you.
Nothing could be done without a team effort. I don't think. So we're on the website here. I think you guys can see it.
Yep.
So this is the home page. There's a great little video that our video editors, Scott and Zach, threw together for us. It's also on our YouTube channel. You can check it out there. I'm not going to play it because of some issues, technical and sound and things like that. But Cheryl, did you want to talk maybe a bit about the design of this and how it functions? Yeah.
So the homepage is just an introduction to the project. So we included this video, which Ryan mentioned, and then there's a few highlight stories there as well. Really, when you start to get into the meat of the website is actually when you click on the timeline. Can you click on the timeline, Ryan?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, so the timeline, it's searchable by themes. So we've got the themes across the top. So there's already lots of behind-the-scenes stories that have been contributed. The clubs, camps, programs, and parties, that's a really fun area. The summer club, there's a wealth of information. I didn't realize that it had run so long at the museum before we started working at this project. I think it's been 60 years. Is that right, Julia?
So. Yep. And there's oodles of room left for stories about that.
Exactly. Working and volunteering, visiting, myths and legends. There's been some interesting stories added there.
That's where the ghost stories are.
Yeah, and of course controversies, all of our favorite topic. So if you scroll down, you'll actually see that it is built out as a timeline, so you can actually scroll from today all the way back to before the ROM started. So Julia, as the project editor, she can actually select what stories get featured here, and she's been very conscious of adding as many of the public stories and staff and volunteers as possible. So this will continue to be updated and evolve as the project continues.
And it's going to run. It's going to run for a whole year.
Yeah.
So
you can submit more than one story.
Exactly right.
This is quite the timeline there, ladies. It goes down, yeah. So, right from the prehistory all the way up to present day. And so the next section is stories.
Right.
Would you like to see a few?
Sure, yeah, we can.
Let's start with the cat. Ooh, I see one that needs to be redone. An image there.
The cat.
Oh, actually, yeah.
She's down here, isn't she?
She is, yeah.
I found this cat in binders in the photography department, staff binders, and I know that
There it is.
every important museum has a museum cat, or used to have a museum cat, and so did we. And the photographer took the portrait of the cat in the photographic studio, and that's all I knew. I didn't know anymore, but I began to brag about it, and so people told me more information, where we got this cat, that it was a girl called Roma, and who was responsible for feeding it, and the fact that it hung out in the guard room, and the guard room had a little window that could be opened so the cat could slip out onto Philosopher's Walk, pre-litter box days.
Ooh.
So we would never do that nowadays, but that's what happened then. And I just love this portrait of the cat, who does look like a museum worker. I put it under working and volunteering.
Mm.
And her role was?
To keep down the mice.
Right.
Pest management, early pest management.
Early
control.
pest management, rodent control.
That's fantastic. And so we have on here interviews from past directors.
Mm-hmm.
And past staff, and you did an interview this morning, didn't you, Julia?
Oh boy, did I ever! And I got some more stories that I'm going to absolutely get mounted pretty soon if I can. And I'll just tell you about one of them. Probably the only living staff member who knows this, apart from the rest of the world now, is that when the museum opened in 1912, there was only one telephone for the whole building. There was one wing, which is the most western part of the building today. It was one wing and one phone, and it was right at the guards station at the entrance. And the people who worked here, and there were about 20 of them, spent a lot of time at the university as well. And so there was a code. If the person was in the building and the phone call was for that person, the guard would tap out a code and on the pipes, and then that person could come and talk on the phone. Wow. And the phone number was Trinity 2.
Huh.
Because all phone numbers had a name as a prefix instead of 3 digits.
I don't even know where to begin with that.
Well,
in this day and age where everyone, it's just, yeah, it's amazing. And so
we've asked a few celebrities for their experiences as well, and one of them that Cheryl and I would like to show is from Jeannie Becker.
Oh, okay.
If you want to see, it'll come up in a minute.
So let's give me a chance to find that.
If you put in Beker, you can get her. There are lots and lots of ways to search. There are keywords. There's a cloud. There.
Timelines, eras.
Yep.
So I found it here. It was really easy to find.
There we go.
So maybe can you just tell us who Jeannie Becker is? Maybe there's some people that are following along that don't know who she is. I mean, I think most Canadians know, but
come on. Well, for many, she started as a clown and went on to an international career on television and fashion television. And she still does a lot of things with and for the museum. And so she talks about when she was a child, how she loved the suit of armor. One suit of armor, there were more than one. The invisible knight she pretended was in it, coming to rescue her. Yes. I thought that was very touching. And a lot of people want to talk about that, what the museum meant to them when they were children, and what their favorite things were to go and see.
Mm-hmm. It's great that people are willing to share these stories. I mean, we've been doing a little bit of sharing of these stories through social media in the last few months, and just kind of highlighting those. We talked about the museum cat, and I don't think I've shared Jeannie's story yet, but I've shared the one of the lady who used to live at the Park Hyatt and used to look at the ROM every day, and the early crowdsourcing for the Egyptian piece that Annette shared in the 1960s, where we set out a donation box to to ask people to help us purchase a piece. And I love these stories, but I wondered, is there any is there any length of story that we're looking for? Are there any, or is it just whatever people are willing to share?
Well, I think some people get scared by the word stories, which is why Cheryl emphasized that your impressions, your memories, whatever it is that you want to share can come in a number of forms, and it's really simple. So you can write a very long story, and some people have, and I may take bits of it, or I may just put the whole thing there, or you can write a joke, or somebody wrote a poem. We could use more of those. A song, just an image that captures your visit.
Okay.
It's story is loose.
Right. So really, we're just looking for people's reflections and memories of the museum, whatever they may be, in whatever form.
We want to build an impression over time.
Fantastic. So I'm going to screen share again, because the last part of the page that we didn't talk about is where you share your stories. So just give me a second here, and maybe Cheryl, you can talk about just the form here that
sure.
you built.
Yep, so the form, it's just a basic, I'm sure you run into these all the time. It's a basic online form. So you fill in your name and your email address. You can assign a theme to what your story is about, a decade. You can upload images, videos. We're asking that people either upload them into YouTube or Vimeo or some other video sharing site, and you can just copy the link, the URL, into that field there. There's also, we invite you to entitle your story and give us a little caption. So even if you've sent us a video, we just ask that you add a little bit of context for us. And then there's ReCollects project rules, which outlines all the details of how we might use it, and it's just an agreement between you and us, so you know that we're not going to steal anything or sell it for any purposes. We're really just looking to share your content online.
Amazing. All right. So I want to get into a little bit of a more philosophical discussion, if you don't mind, because I have a museum studies background, and I did my museum studies focused on technology and technology use in museums as a tool for museums in the 21st century. I wondered if we could talk a little bit about crowdsourcing the history of a museum through a project like this, and was it difficult to get off the ground? Were people sort of reluctant to get it started? Is there anything that we can share about that sort of thing? I know that we have a book coming out that commemorates the history as well, but really getting the people to write our history, to write the museum's history, I think is a really huge thing. I wondered if we could talk about that for a little bit.
Well, I know leading up to the centennial, there was a lot of thinking put internally at the museum on what type of projects and what type of exhibitions we may want to participate in. And this project, like inviting the public to share content with us, was one that came up over and over again. So both staff and volunteers and even visitors seem to be really interested in this opportunity. So it seemed like the history was a good way to actually add some frame to that. I don't know, Julia, did you have anything to add?
Ryan, you mentioned a book, but the book's focus is on the collections, on particular
objects, right? Yeah.
Yes, and stories about them. And for our 75th anniversary, we did do a book. We hired a writer. We took years, and it's a good reference source. It's indexed and so on as well. But I think this is a different kind of. I think this is a novel and pretty daring sort of approach, because it tells us what the labs were like, what the visitor services was like, what the food was like, what things that people don't put in written histories, and particularly, how else can you elicit the meaning of the museum to people at different ages and stages? because museums are all changing, and so are their visitors. And this is a great way, I think, to capture some of those changes.
Completely agree, Julia. I mean, you know, so much of our centennial is, you know, not focused on the past. It's actually focused on our future and where we're headed. And you know, I can't think of a better way to show, to put, you know, our money where our mouth is, to show that we're, you know, that we're interested in, and you know, knowing what our visitors think, and collecting those stories, and having a place where people can go and see what others have, you know, memories of the museum. So it's a fantastic project. I can't wait to see what it looks like in a year's time. And you know, going forward, we're going to be sharing the stories we get. We're also actively looking for stories, and you know, can we maybe, Cheryl, do you want to talk about the plan in the next few months for the project?
Well, the actual centennial celebrations they start on March 19th, or I should say in March 2013. So we've got lots of programs and activities planned. But this online project will run until March 2015, and then we'll stop accepting contributions, and we'll actually archive it as a ongoing published history of the museum. So you've got some time to contribute, but we're really hoping to flesh that out over the year and build a comprehensive archive of all the experiences at the museum.
Okay. And if people visit the museum, is there anywhere that they can view the project? Or, I mean, I guess on their phone, but
Yeah.
or on a tablet. But are we going to be displaying it anywhere in the museum for people to interact with? Or, Julia, I mean, we talked a little bit about gathering stories from people while they're visiting the museum. Or has that been?
I think you can expect to see at peak times. You might find a flock of volunteers who have expressed interest in helping with some of the interviews, and who can certainly approach with an iPad. Most of the staff and volunteers know me too well by now, and they run in the other direction and see me coming. But I think that we'll try, because we certainly want people to easily be able to contribute.
Okay. So if you're visiting for ROM for the holidays, which starts on December 26th and runs till January 5th, you might see some people asking for your stories, and please do share your stories. You know, the more stories we get, the more the timeline will be filled out, and the better of a resource it will be for everyone. So,
but don't wait to come into the museum.
But
do
yeah,
it from home.
Yeah. That's right. You can do it from home. Sorry.
And your pictures too.
Yes.
And your pictures. Cheryl, is there? We're almost out of time. I just wondered if there's any last thoughts on.
Actually, I know Julia had some last thoughts, so I'm going to pass it over to her.
Okay.
Oh my! I expressed most of them. I just think that it's exciting to have a project that is made by the visitors, made by the contributors. We've done a skeleton, and the rest is up to you.
Well, there you go. As I'm in a room full of skeletons, actually.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it for us today, everyone. And I just want to appreciate all the viewers that we had hanging out with us live. And as always, with our Google Hangouts, they're archived on our YouTube channel, which you can find at the bottom of our website, or just by going to YouTube and searching Royal Ontario Museum. There's a whole playlist with all of the Hangouts. The ROM ReCollects project is easy to find. Just Google ROM ReCollects, or you can find it on our website in the bottom left-hand corner where the video, the introduction video is. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Cheryl, for hanging out. And our next hangout, I can share a little bit of information about that, will be on January 15th, Wednesday, at the same time. We're going to be hanging out with Gail Gibson, who's a longtime ROM educator who specializes in ancient Egypt. And we're going to be hanging out with some of her colleagues from the University of Western Ontario, and Dr. Ray Osman, who's the managing director of ROM Ancient Cultures. We're going to be talking about mummies, X-raying of mummies, and all that cool stuff. So
And look up Gail's story on ROM ReCollects.
that's right.
It's
Yeah,
really
Gail's got a
good.
great story. Yeah. Thanks again, ladies, and thanks everyone for tuning in. And we'll see you soon.
Hi.
Bye.